Good evening, everyone. Joining us here for KREM 2 News at 5, I'm Whitney Ward. Mark is off tonight. We want to get straight to our forecast because we are about to see a lot of changes. We've got wind and snow and very, very cold temperatures headed this way. So we want to send it over to our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo. We've got a look at the next few days, Jeremy.
It's one of those ones where, you said it all. And if you think about it, it's winter, so none of this is all that crazy, but it's been a while and our guard has been let down. So I think it's going to have some pretty big impacts. The wind basically getting going. All of our wind advisories and wind warnings or high wind warnings go into effect tonight and last through 10 a.m. tomorrow. Those wind advisories, wind gusts up to about 50 miles per hour. The wind warnings from south central Washington through the Palouse, wind gusts up near 60 miles per hour. That is enough to cause a little bit more damage. I think we're predominantly talking down tree limbs, but that's still enough to knock out power and eventually close some roads. So we'll keep a close eye on that. When it comes to the snow kind of chases the wind and then switches the wind direction on us. Winter storm warnings in effect over the Cascades and the Northern Rockies. I think look out past 12 to 20 inches of snow. I think you're over the Cascades, you're looking at anywhere between, okay, this is going to sound funny, but 4 to 36 inches of snow. I think Snoqualmie are on the lower end, still about a foot though. Stevens Pass up to 3 feet by the time it all comes to an end. But get this, 2 inches per hour is likely what we see fall over Snoqualmie Pass. That's enough to cause whiteout conditions and potentially close roads. Similar story over Lookout. It's going to be all about watching those mountain pass conditions. Right now, a little bit of snow and rain moves out, and then we get our next round. That moves in early tomorrow. We'll see the storm itself slide right over the top of us during the day. As that happens, we get some pretty decent snow. I think here in Spokane, over in Coeur d'Alene, a few inches all said and done. And then once the snow's done, the cold settles in.
Wow. All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. Our other big story tonight, people are sharing their fond memories and prayers for the nation's 39th president, Jimmy Carter. It was announced this weekend he is receiving hospice care at his home in Plains, Georgia. At the age of 98, Jimmy Carter is the longest living American president in history. He wrote more than 20 books and established the Carter Center for Human Rights with his wife, Rosalind. And now, as he enters his final stage of life, the world is recalling former President Carter's achievements in the White House, as well as his extensive work in the decades that followed.
They have done so much for this town, for this state, for the country and the world.
He has led a good life. He has served his Lord, and as he says, he's ready to go. He's very peaceful about it.
Carter was diagnosed with melanoma in 2015, but was later declared cancer-free. Then in 2019, he suffered a black eye after a fall and was later hospitalized with a fractured pelvis from a different fall. The Carter Center, though, did not provide details this time about his recent hospitalizations. And as the nation prays for President Carter, we are looking back at his connections to the Inland Northwest. Amanda Rowley is joining us now in studio. And Amanda, you've been digging through the archives this afternoon. What have you found?
We dusted off our archives from the late 70s and determined former President Jimmy Carter made 2 trips to Eastern Washington during his presidency.
A presidential visit is no small event, and that was definitely the case when President Jimmy Carter came to Spokane. He made his first visit in 1978 for the 4-year anniversary of the World's Fair. A crowd greeted the president at Fairchild Air Force Base before his motorcade took him downtown. In front of a crowd of some 25,000 people, Carter dedicated the former expo site as Riverfront Park. During the ceremony, he praised the people of Spokane for investing in the urban redevelopment of the site.
You've transformed an area that was declining, that was far short of its great potential, into one of the nation's most innovative and refreshing urban settings.
Later that day, Carter held a town hall event at the Spokane Convention Center. 1,700 ticket holders greeted the president with a standing ovation.
Thank you again.
2 years later, Mount St. Helens blew. This prompted Carter's second visit to Eastern Washington. 2 days after the eruption, Carter declared a major disaster for the state of Washington. The next day, he stopped in Spokane on his tour of the Mount St. Helens devastation. There he would find the hillside where he dedicated Riverfront Park, now covered in several inches of ash. 2 major regional events, all tied to the life of an American president.
Now, we also know Carter visited Eastern Washington a third time, but it was before he was elected president. During his speech at Riverfront Park back in 1978, he recalled visiting Expo 74 in Spokane as governor of Georgia. He remembered being thrilled by the beauty of the Spokane River. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Amanda, thank you very much. In other top stories now, in just a few days, emergency food assistance for thousands of Washingtonians will be cut. The extra SNAP benefits that started during the pandemic are expiring, leaving food pantries and the people they serve afraid of what the future will look like. KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy also shows us how the timing is making this cut even deeper.
At Spokane's Second Harvest, the work doesn't stop, even on a day off for most, especially when there's a big change coming down the line.
Yeah, it's something of a cliff because that's going to go away for lots of people, anywhere from $90 to say $200+ less that they'll have a month.
At the end of the month, emergency SNAP benefits implemented in response to the pandemic will end, and those cuts run deeper as food banks are reporting demand increases of 20 to 40%, while Second Harvest's supply of food has decreased about a third, Eric Williams says.
In the teeth of the pandemic, now we always take safety first, but you almost had to go like this just to be able to walk around. We had tons and tons of food.
All that food comes to places like Off-Broadway's Hub, where more and more people are coming for help, and more people are feeling the uncertainty of those cuts.
Gone. This month is the last month I get it.
John Kaiser has been coming to the Hub for 3 years.
Religiously.
He's also been getting a nearly $100 boost in SNAP benefits, emergency allotments that started in 2020.
You know, after buying groceries on the first when I get my food stamps or get my assistance, you know, I'm like, oh man, I still got all kinds of stuff I need to get. Thank God, I still got 95 coming tomorrow.
Kaiser's already looking ahead to when he loses those extra benefits and wondering how he'll make up the difference.
With the cost of everything going up and interest and all that, it's like, you know, help.
It's hard to know what's coming, but Williams has a pretty good view.
It's going to be really difficult for us and everyone we work with, but most importantly, for the people who rely on those benefits.
Shannon Mowdy.
Well, I'm not a quitter, so yeah, survival's number one.
KREM 2 News.
And in other headlines tonight, a Gonzaga University student died in a car crash near Ritzville over the weekend. The Washington State Patrol identified 18-year-old Diego Garza of Lakewood as the victim. Now a community-wide prayer service is scheduled for tomorrow at noon. And the family of a 19-year-old WSU student has released a statement after his cause of death was reported earlier today. The Whitman County Medical Examiner ruled that freshman Luke Tyler died by suicide. He was found dead inside a dorm last month, and KREM 2 News will not be sharing the details of that medical report. However, we did reach out to Tyler's family for a statement. They say they still have questions about their son's death. That statement reads in part, "We are continuing to work with the authorities to determine how, in a short 4 months during his first semester at WSU, Luke went from a positive, compassionate, and kind young man to having a depression so deep that caused him to take his own life." And by the way, if you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, please know you are not alone. You can call the 988 National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Today, President Joe Biden made a surprise visit to Ukraine, the historic visit coming just days before the one-year anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine from Russian forces. Earlier this morning, the president was greeted by the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as the country's first lady. This trip to Kyiv marks the first time in modern history that a sitting U.S. president has entered a war zone where there is not an active presence of American troops.
Mr. President, I'm delighted to be able to repay your visit to our country. In Washington, not long ago you told the Congress, quote, "We have no fear, nor should any in the world have it," end of quote. You and all Ukrainians, Mr. President, remind the world every single day what the meaning of the word courage is.
The president announced an additional $500 million in U.S. assistance to Ukraine. He's also expected to visit Poland later today and this week as well. This all comes as House Republicans are calling for a stop to monetary support for Ukraine, saying the U.S. is offering a blank check for the war overseas. The UN has estimated more than 7,000 civilians have been killed during that war.